What you're going to learn by watching this video is how to take a high poly mesh and then use retopology techniques to make a low poly mesh. You're then going to learn how to UV unwrap your low poly retopology mesh, and then you're going to learn how to use normal maps, ambient occlusion maps, as well as diffuse maps to take the detail from your high poly mesh and then apply that to your low poly mesh. As I work my way through the tutorial, I try to not only explain what I'm doing, but why I'm doing what I'm doing. Thanks for watching this tutorial, and I hope that you enjoy it. Hi, this is Ali Arango of LittleGuyCGI.com. Today I want to show you how to retopologize a Ninja character in Blender 2.92. So let's get started. Okay, so what is retopology? Retopology is a way of simplifying a mesh, usually that comes from a sculpt, and setting up for the mesh to be able to be used in things like animation. That's the main reason that I typically retopologize something, is so that I can put a rig in it so that then the character can be animated. What you see on the screen is the result of another tutorial. I'll put a link up so you can get to that tutorial. One of the first things we're going to do here is I have an empty here. The empty reacts with this character in different ways. I'm going to hide that empty. The plan here is to have the different pieces that make up what you see in front of you into one simplified mesh that is easy to animate. I'm going to select this hood right here and then press H to hide that. Okay, our retopology mesh is going to be made from a plane. Typically, when I work in Blender, I use the view setup you see in front of you to manipulate the view. To get this view, what you would do is, I'll start from here. I'll press the N key, and then what you would do is go to View, and then you would see this as long as you first go to Edit, Preferences, Add-ons, and then have a check mark next to this top add-on. Okay, so what we're going to do now is go to Front, left click there. I'm going to select this object here. I'm going to press H to hide that object. I'm going to move my mouse to upper left, hold Shift, press B, draw a zoom box to zoom in on our character mesh. Okay, our retopology mesh, it's going to be made from a plane. So our 3D cursor is in the middle of our scene. That's important because where the 3D object is at in Blender is where objects tend to come into Blender at. If your 3D cursor for some reason is not in the center of your scene, you should be able to press Shift C, and then the 3D cursor should go back to the center of your scene. With the 3D cursor there, what you're going to do is hold Shift, press A. Let's try that again. Hold Shift, press A. This brings up our Add To menu. We're going to go to Mesh Plane. So now we have a plane right in the center of our scene, which is what we want. I'm going to roll the mouse to zoom in, hold Shift as well as the middle mouse button to pan. I'm rolling the mouse to zoom in more. We're currently in the object mode of the plane, so we're selected on the plane, or we're not the object mode of the plane. I should say the object mode of Blender. With the plane selector, we're going to look to the upper left and then select to go to edit mode. Here in edit mode, what we want to do is we have the plane. So if I held the middle mouse button to rotate the view, you can see there's a plane right there, right? I'm going to select front to go back to front view. What we want to do is take this plane and bring this down to one single vertex. There's multiple ways of getting one vertex to start building up retopology in Blender. This is how I'm choosing to do this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the upper left. Here in the upper left, we can go to Vertex Select, Edge Select, Face Select. I'm going to go to Vertex Select. I'm then going to go to Mesh, and then down to Merge. And then I'm going to select at Center. So I didn't select anything yet, but when I select at Center, the vertices that make up our plane should be merged together into one vertex, which is what we want. So I'm going to left click. So now we have one vertex made from the plane that we brought in. Okay, when working with the retopology process, what we want to do is set up some options to go through this process. So we're going to go to our upper left. We're going to go to object mode. Here in object mode, we're going to look towards the upper center of our screen. What we're going to do is select this magnet. And what this magnet does is this turns on snapping. We're going to look slightly to the right, select the arrow. We're going to change this setting of the snap to face. We're then going to go down to project individual elements. So we're going to put a check mark there. And with those basic settings, we should be able to start with our retopology. So we still have the plane selected on, right? So it's right now it's called plane.005. I'm going to select here, and then I'm going to rename this retopology. So with this, it was a plane. Now it's one vertex selected. We're going to go to the upper left and then go to edit mode. Okay, I'm going to hold the mouse button to rotate the view. So currently our plane our vertex is actually in the center of our head. So we're going to go to the upper left, go to object mode, turn off snapping just to make this easier to get to the front of our face. So with this snapping turned off, go to the upper left, go to edit mode. We'll push this single vertex forward so it's in the front of our face now, right? Now we'll select front view. And what we're going to do is push this down and then bring it slightly to the right. That circle is proportional editing, which I don't want that on currently. So this circle shows that that's on. I'm going to press O to turn that off. Now I'm going to go back to object mode. I'm going to turn snapping back on. All right, so with the snapping back on, as soon as I press G, so I'll show you this. I'm going to go to the upper left, go to edit mode, right? So when I rotate the view, you can see the vertex is in front of the face, right? What you want to do is line up this vertex so it's by how you're looking at it, aimed to where you want it to stick to. So when I press G, which I haven't done yet, but I'm about to, I press G. Now I left click. Doesn't look like anything happened from this perspective. However, when I hold the middle mouse button, you can see now that vertex is actually sticking to the face, which is what we want. Okay, I'm going to roll the mouse to zoom in. I'm going to hold shift as well. Whoops. I'm going to hold shift as well as the middle mouse button to pan. Typically when doing retopology with faces, what I do is I line a vertex up to the edge of the eye. I do 3 vertices above the eye. I do a vertex on the edge of the eye, and then I do 3 vertices along. So it's 1 vertex to the side of the eye, then 3 vertices above it, 1 vertex to the edge, then 3 vertices below the eye as well. Okay, so with this vertex selected, I'm holding control. Because I'm holding control, when I right click, I'm going to extrude a vertex out. So I'm holding control. I'm going to right click. Holding control again. Right click. There we go. So there's 1, 2, 3. Those are the 3 vertices I talked about on, above the eye. Here's the 1 to the corner of the eye. Then 1, 2, 3. Those are the 3 I said beneath the eye. I'm letting go of control, holding shift. Selecting here, letting go of shift, pressing F. So now we have this loop going around the eyes. Okay, so see how as far as the eyes, we can see these edges going into the face. What we can do to deal with that is we can go to the square here, visibility, down to viewport display, and then we can go to in front, put a check mark there, and then we'll see this geometry in front of the geometry that we have this snapping to. So with that done, I'm going to left click. I'm going to press A to select everything. Now I'm going to press E to extrude, right click. So I made an extrusion. Doesn't look like it did anything because the extrusion, which is more geometry was made, is right on top of the old geometry. I'm going to press S to scale. And what this is doing is expanding our geometry. And that's what we want. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to go to the upper left, go to object mode. We're going to go to our modifier menu. We're going to add a mirror modifier. If your mirror modifier, this is lined up correctly. However, if it didn't line up correctly, you could either use, like on here, we have an empty. We could use the mirror object as the empty. That would make the mirror work correctly. Or you could put empty directly in the center of your scene and then use that as the mirror object as well. So with this done, what we're going to do is go back to the upper left, go back to edit mode. I'm going to go to this mirror modifier. See, this looks like a triangle. When I select this, this will make this mirrored geometry look like this geometry. So that makes it easier for me to work. I'm going to select here, pull this back some like that. Now what I'm going to do is go to edge select, select this edge. So we have these two edge here and this edge, kind of like the edges that are pointing to the other geometry. You want this edge below those two parts. We're going to press E to extrude, right click, push down, press R to rotate to have this extra piece of geometry here. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to select this edge, hold shift. By holding shift, I can select more than one edge at a time, still holding shift. Letting go of shift, I'm going to press E to extrude, right click, then I'm going to push this extruded geometry toward itself. Before I push this geometry into itself, I'm going to look to the right, turn on this clipping, and now when I push the geometry toward itself, you can see like it won't go past this center line, it being the geometry. However, when I hold the middle mouse to turn to the side, you can see this vertex is going the opposite direction of what we would want. So I'm going to go to the upper left, select vertex, select this vertex, hold the middle mouse button, rotate towards the front, press G, and then left click. Now when I hold the middle mouse button to turn to the side, you can see that vertex is where it's supposed to be. So I'm going to hold the middle mouse button, rotate the view again. Okay, since most of our face is covered up, a lot of the main work is going to be having a topology come up here, retopology come up here, as well as here. What we can do to make this quicker as far as working with the top of the head is we can go to object mode. I'm going to roll the mouse wheel to zoom back. I'm going to hold shift, press A. This brings up our add to menu. I'm going to select a cube. I'm going to add a subdivision surface modifier to the cube. I'm going to duplicate this subdivision surface modifier. I'm then going to apply both of these subdivision surface modifiers. I'm going to go to the upper left, go to edit mode. I'm going to go to edge select, hold Alt, select the halfway point on this mesh here. When I held Alt, I was able to select the entire loop going around. Now I'm going to have my mouse be beneath the loop. I'm going to press V. When I press V, I ripped the geometry beneath this edge here, right? So I'm going to go to the upper left to face select, press L, which allowed me to select all of this geometry here. I'm now going to press X to bring up our delete button and then choose faces to delete. Okay, what we're going to want to do is to apply a shrink wrap modifier here. We're also going to want to cut this in half, and then the plan is to join this to the retopology mesh. So we're going to quickly go through that. So we're going to go to the upper left, go to object mode. We're going to select our main head mesh. This is the outliner here. This is where you can find objects in Blender at. We'll double click here. We'll name this main head mesh. We're naming that basically so that we can easily see what we're applying the shrink wrap modifier to. What we're going to do now is select here, add a shrink wrap modifier, go to this target, select the main head mesh. We can see it highlighted right there. With that done, we'll go to the arrow, select that, select apply, go to the upper left, go to edit mode. Here in edit mode, you can't see it because it's underneath this hat piece. So we'll go to view global / local. We'll go to edge select, hold alt, select here, go to the left of here, press V to rip this, right click. Then we'll go to face select, hover here, press L, press X to bring up our delete menu, then choose faces to delete. We'll now go back into global mode. Currently we're in local mode. You can see when you look up to the left, user perspective local. So if you ever save a file and then you see like only this or whatever situation, if you're wondering like what is going on with everything else, check to see, make sure you're not in local mode, which you can see to the left there. So we'll select view global / local. So now with that done, we're going to go back to object mode. We can see that we have this head piece selected. We'll hold shift, select our retopology mesh, let go of shift, and then we'll hold control, press J. What happened was we just joined this head piece to the retopology mesh. Because this had a mirror modifier on it, this head piece acquired the mirror modifier. Okay, so why did we do all that? We could have retopologized the head. I find this easier. There's multiple ways of doing things in Blender. This is just how I chose to show you how to do this. Anyway, we're going to go to the upper left, go to edit mode. I'm going to go back to the upper left. We're going to select this piece right here, temporarily hide that. Select our retopology mesh, go to the upper left. So what we need to do here is connect this. So I'm going to hold control, press R, left click once. Move this slightly to the side. So now I'll select this edge, hold shift, select here. Then I'm going to press F to join that up. So what we can do now is we'll select this edge. Blender knows that Blender can tell that there's a edge here as well as an edge here. So when I press F, this will fill in, and this should fill in as well. So we have this edge selected. So I'm going to press F and then F. So Blender did that work for us there. Okay, now what we're going to do is hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. I'm on edge select, so I'll select this edge here. What I'm going to do is extrude out, and I'm going to pay attention to the edges here. So I'm holding control, I right click here because I can see this matches up here. So now I'm doing the same thing as I go along the side. I'm going to go to the upper left, go to object mode, turn snapping is on, okay. Go back down to edit mode. Hold shift as well as the middle mouse button to pan. All right, there's in snapping. I'm not sure if this was here before. One of the things that was frustrating is that when you saw other topology in Blender, the snap mode would try to snap to it. I'm going to go to the upper left, go to object mode. What option we can turn on to make sure that doesn't happen is we'll go to this arrow and then see this back face calling. I'm going to put a check mark here, and then when we hover over here, we can see this says exclude back face geometry from snapping. So that's very useful. So we're going to go to the upper left, go to edit mode. Back to edit mode. Okay, so with this edge selected, I'm going to hold control. I press S to scale. Push that down some. Holding control to do this. Holding control. When I come to a center point like the mirror modifier, most of the time I purposely go short of that center, which allows me to manually push the geometry together like that. So since we looked as we line this geometry up, I'm actually going to go to viewport shading so we can see more, easily what we're doing. I'm going to select here, then press F, 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 F. Blender nicely filled that all in for us. I'm going to zoom back by rolling the mouse, then I'm going to left click to deselect. One of the things you want to be careful for as you work on retopology is you don't want to have your topology, as far as how much geometry you have, increase too quickly. So when you can work successfully having fairly low geometry, I recommend that you do that. You can increase the geometry later. So I'm holding the mouse button to take a look. I zoom in. I'm going to go to vertex, select, pull this vertex like this. What I'm going to do is hold control. Very similar to what we did before. I'm paying attention to the top here. Holding the mouse button, rotate. Doing this because I want to have this, the bottom of this mask I wanted to make sure I had enough geometry for the bottom of the mask here. So we're going to select here, then press F, 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 F. Very similar to before. And then also similar to before, this here. We can push that together. We'll press, oops. Left click to deselect. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to select here, this edge. We're going to hold control. We're going over to where the ear comes out. We use something called the shortest path technique by selecting here while holding control. All of the edges in between were selected. I'm going to go to the upper left, go to object mode, temporarily turn off snapping. Go back to edit mode with this selected here. I'm also going to temporarily turn off clipping. I'm going to press E to extrude, right click, push this geometry straight down. I'll left click, I'll turn back, clipping back on, I'll go back to the upper left, turn snapping back on, go back to the, well, I went to the middle there, go to the left, vertex select. When I select this geometry, just when I select this and then push this down, it'll automatically snap to the face. So see the size of this. So what we're going to do is when I say size, I'm talking about these faces here. So we'll hold control, press R. I told you about the size because we're kind of aiming for to have these loop cuts form faces that are similar to the faces you see above. So I'm going to left click once, left click a second time. Then I'm going to press G to have those vertices snap. So now I'll left click to deselect. Okay, we just put these edges in. When I was talking about the faces, I was talking about having these faces be about the same size as the faces up here. These faces are actually smaller than I want them to be. Often when I'm doing retopology, when we get to the later stages, I'll put a subdivision surface on. Sometimes I'll apply that subdivision surface. When I do that, sometimes the if you're not careful, the faces can be smaller than you want, basically meaning you have more geometry than you want. So I'm actually going to take away these edges and redistribute them. You'll see what I mean. It's good for you to know how to do this. So I'm going to go to the upper left, go to edge select. I'm going to hold Alt, select here, press X. So this is our delete menu, right? we, instead of going to, like normally when I come to delete, most of the time I'm deleting vertices, edges, or faces. What I want to do now is dissolve this edge instead of deleting it. So when I dissolve the edge, I won't affect the geometry other than taking the edge away. So you see how that edge went away. So I'll hold Alt. Alt lets me select that entire loop. I'll press X, dissolve edge. I'll hold Alt, press X, and then select dissolve edge. So now we have this extrusion, but we have the edges taken out without the other geometry that it's connected to being affected in an adverse way. Okay, so I want to put loop cuts back. However, I'm going to hold Control, press R. However, I'm going to put in 2 instead of the 3, which I think the size is closer to the size of these faces here, or closer to the size of these faces here. This is temporary. We'll continue to work as we go throughout the rest of this tutorial. When I hold to the side, you see how the edges aren't snapped to the face, even though we have snapping on. So when you put in new edge loops, you press G, we'll left click, and now you can see that they're snapped. And this right here came forward, so we'll drag that back. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to select this vertex here. I'm going to go to the upper left. Okay, we have the back face culling on. Just wanted to make sure of that, or wanted to make sure of that. So we have this vertex here, right? So what I want to do is extrude this vertex down. So I'm going to go here to match up here, and then here to match up here, then here, and then here. So you can, what you're seeing is the back of the head. You can see that because I have this visibility display in front. See that? So we're putting this, these vertices, we're about to put them, it'll be on this bottom of the jaw. You just can't see it. All right, so I'm going to hold Control, and I purposely move away from the center line just to keep from causing issues. So I'm going to right click, right click, right click. I'm still holding Control. See how I'm matching up with that? Then right click, right? So now that we have that, what we can do is I'll select here, select here, select here, select there. Then I'll press F to fill. I'll take this, well, I'll take these vertices, push them towards each other. That up some. Then we should be able to go to Edge Select, select here, and then press F, F. This here probably won't work as far as like just pressing F, so we'll select here, here, and then press F. I'll left click to deselect. I'll hold Shift as well as the middle mouse button to pan. Okay, I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate. Our plan now is to basically put the geometry here, set to go around the ear. So we'll select this vertex. We're on vertex select. When you look to the upper left, I'm going to hold Control. I'm holding Control. So while holding Control, I've right click, so you can see this matches up. There's a face here, face. When you're doing retopology, you generally want to have what's called quads, which are faces, faces that have 4 vertices. So with that set up, we should be able to select here, press F, F, F. Excellent. I'll left click to deselect. I'm going to hold the mouse button. So I'm going to select here. Hold Control. So I'm on Edge Select now. Like that. Then like that. I'll hold Shift, select here, then press F. I'll left click to deselect. I'm going to hold them the mouse button. All right, so we have this geometry coming back from the head. I actually want to make the geometry less as we go towards the neck. So how can we do that? Well, one of the ways we can do that is we'll select here, right? So we have these faces that are connected to the mirror, right? So you don't want these faces, you want the faces next to there, right? So what we're going to do is press E to extrude, right click. Doesn't look like we did anything, but we extrude it. We'll push this down, right? And what we're going to do is press R to rotate like this. So now we'll press E to extrude, right click, push the extrusion towards itself like that. So then with that done, we'll select here, hold shift, select here as well as here, press F. And basically you might, if you're like, why are you doing this? See right here, there was 4 faces. By doing this, when you look down to the bottom here, now we have 2 faces, or 4 edges, I should say. Now there's 2 edges. So we effectively reduce the geometry. So now I'm looking here, so I'm going to hold Control, press R, put a loop cut there. So we'll select here, press F to fill that in, left click to deselect. In a video that I made to show how to make the video, one of the top supporters of this channel is Kelly Johnson, and he made a comment about the tutorial, and he was like, "Yeah, you still have to do retopology," and I kind of laughed to myself because retopology, it is something that, like, when I work through like doing a sculpt, like it's not something that I necessarily look forward to. However, the more times I do it, the easier it does seem to get. There's multiple ways of doing it, which is one of the things that can be difficult about it. Like this thing right here is good to know. Like if you need to, a lot of times with retopology, it's what you're doing is trying to figure out, how to match up what to what, right? And then you'll have often too much geometry. So this, where I came down and then pushed to the side here, this is a pretty effective way. There's other ways as well as like reducing the geometry. Also, like this could be positioned higher. You could do that. We have for this scope, there's a Ninja hood that goes over this. So this is, I think it's fine for here. But yeah, when I'm as I'm doing this, I'm thinking about the people like Kelly Johnson. As far as like when he said that, I felt in a way, I guess the best way to say it, happiness and knowing that someone knows how it understands. Like I know that he understands how tedious retopology can be. When other people are going through like unpleasantness with you, it sometimes it makes it feel better. Anyway, it's it being retopology. It is what it is. I mean, it's time consuming. Let me stop. Anyway, so we have this geometry here, right? So what we can do here is we'll go to vertex select. We'll select here. Hold Control. Hold Control. So when I'm doing this, you see how I'm thinking like here. Okay, we can have 4 phases here, right? So I'll select here. Remember, we can't see anything because we have that in front set for the display. However, once we have this geometry here, Blender helps us out because we can press F, 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 F. I find the way that I split this here, I find that this works better for me. Just making the geometry and then pushing the geometry towards the center line. I'll left click to deselect. Okay, so what I want to do now is kind of round out the geometry for the ear. Even though you can't see the ear. And again, this is when it comes to retopology, depending on what is visible, like this should be covered up. Well, when you're doing a retopology, depending on how fast what you need is and where you're setting up geometry is how you should think about what you're going to do it. So for the ear, what we're going to do here is I'm going to go to Edge Select, hold Alt, select here. I can see there's the ear there. I'm going to go to the upper left, go to Object Mode, turn off Snapping, go back to Edit Mode. I'm going to press E to extrude, right click, pull this extrusion out like this. Select here. You want to be careful because I don't want to cross over. So I'm going to select these pieces here. Looking at the ear, I'm going to hold Shift. All right, so I'm going to hold Alt, select here. I'm going to Statistics now, Statistics. So this is 8 vertices. When you have 8 vertices, you can use something to quickly fill in geometry called Grid Fill, which is nice. I'm going to hold Control, press F. This brings up our Faces menu. Then I'll select Grid Fill, and then that is filled in. Force, you can change how things are filled in here, there. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to go to the upper left, go to Object Mode. We're going to go to our modifiers. We are going to take off the mirror modifier. We're going to add a subdivision surface modifier. We're going to add a shrink wrap modifier. We're about to add the shrink wrap modifier. We're going to use the main head mesh as the target. The ear is going to look strange. Be prepared for it. So we select target. There we go. The main head mesh. The ear goes in, right? How do we deal with that? We change this snap mode to outside. Now the ear comes out. Why did we take off the mirror modifier? We took off the mirror modifier because it's fairly easy to put on. I find that it causes issues. See this right here? We're going to go to edit mode. We'll select this to the right, this triangle. We'll select the shrink wrap there. All right, so as far as what we're going to do now is we're going to go to the upper left. We're going to go to Object, Apply All Modifiers. what we're going to do now is go back to edit mode. Right above the ear here, we're going to hold Alt with edge select on to select there. We'll hold Alt again, select here, hold Shift. So we have this edge right above the ear going around, right? We're going to hold Control, press E. This brings up our edges menu. We're going to select Mark Seam. The main reason we're selecting this seam is so we can easily select this geometry here. We're going to go to Face Select. When we go to Face Select and we have a seam, what we can do is press L and we'll select all of this area here. The reason why we wanted to do that is so we could go to the, looks like a triangle, go to Vertex Group, select plus to make a new vertex group. We'll name this Mask. What we're doing here is we're taking off this geometry we have selected here and we're assigning it to this group. So we'll select Assign, right? Why did we do that? I'm going to left click to deselect. We did that so that we can now go back to our modifier, add a shrink wrap modifier. For the vertex group, choose Mask. And then for this modifier, we're actually looking for this cube 8, which is our mask. So you can see when I select the monitor, it being the modifier, you can see like here, here, here. Made the geometry go closer to the shape. So I'm going to go to upper left here. I'll select here. I'm going to hold Control, press R to put a loop cut here. Back to object mode. I'm going to apply that modifier. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to add the mirror modifier back. We'll go to edit mode, see how this shading here looks kind of strange. What we can do is go to our outliner view to the upper right, select the arrow, go down to face orientation. This face orientation shows how normal should be facing. Normals, think of normals as being like clothing that you put on. Like clothing is supposed to, it has an inside and an outside. So this right here is showing us these normals are not correct. So what we'll do is press C for paint select, select these normals. I got this by accident, so I'll press the middle mouse button to deselect there. I'll right click to get out of paint select. Now we can go to mesh and then we can go down to normals. However, we can, well, you can see right here, we can go to Alt N, right? So we'll press Alt N, choose flip. Then we'll turn off this face orientation. I'll turn on this so the other geometry looks, you know, on this side looks like the geometry on that side. Turn on clipping. Push these pieces of geometry towards the center. I'm pushing them so that they join up in the center. Roll the mouse wheel to zoom back. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button. This geometry here, I'm going to go to Alt. Hold Alt again. With this, what I'm going to do is go to Mesh, Smooth vertices. So vertex, smooth vertices. If you don't want to continue to go to vertex and then smooth vertices, what you can do is right click, select add to favorites, right? So now when I press Q, I can continually smooth the vertices out. I'm pushing these vertices towards each other to make sure that they're joined by the mirror modifier. That's what I'm doing there. There's weirdness here, which is what I'm... So sometimes when you have strangeness like this, it's easier just to delete that geometry. See, from the inside, this is not right. Holding control. Now I'll select here. Press F to fill. I go to the upper left, go to object mode. Okay, we'll come back to this later. I'm gonna 3D cursors in the center of our scene, so we're gonna hold Shift, press A. When I said it's in the center of the scene, I meant it's in the center. It's good because we're gonna bring in a plane to start the body retopology. I find it's easier to separate the head from the body, mainly dealing with subdivisions, things like that, or even if not that, we have options. By working with the head separately from the body, we can fairly easily join them together later on. So we're going to bring in a plane. Here's our plane. We'll go to the upper left, go to edit mode. We'll go to mesh, merge, at center. We're on vertex, select. We'll go to the side, press A to make sure we have that vertex. Push this out to the side so we can see it. Push it straight down like that. I'll go to the upper left, go to object mode. Okay, I'm going to go to the outliner, double click this plane.005, which is our new retopology. We'll name this body retopology. I'm going to select here, press H to temporarily hide that. So there's our body retopology. Okay, what we're going to do now is go to the upper left, go to edit mode. I'm going to hold Shift as well as the middle mouse button to pan. I'm going to go back to the upper left, go to object mode, turn on snapping. Or I went to the middle upper screen, upper left edit mode. We have the one vertex selected. I clicked off just to make sure. So I left clicked on nothingness to deselect. I'm pressing A to select everything now. So now what I'm going to do is press E to extrude, right click to push this down like that. I'll go to the upper left to go to edge select, and I'll select this edge. I'm going to pull this slightly off center. Okay, right now it's difficult to see the geometry, so what we'll do is go to the right. We'll go down to the, we went to the square on the right, looks like a square. Viewport display, and then we'll select in front. Now we can clearly see our geometry. With this edge selected, we want to have 3 faces here going to the shoulder, 1 face on the shoulder, and then 2 faces going across. So we'll do, I'm holding control. I'm going to right click once, 2, 3, right? So there's the 3 front faces. Here's the 1 to the side. And then we want 2 going towards the back. So 1, 2. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. Left click to deselect. When you're working in retopology or on retopology, generally you want to keep things fairly basic. Definitely when building up the character, maybe not definitely, but I would say when you're building up the character, kind of funny. You can sculpt, make beautiful sculpts. However, with the current state of technology, those sculpts, as far as movement, you really can't do too much with the sculpts. You need to retopologize the characters you make to have them be, at least with 2021 technology, to have the characters be able to be used in different types of media. Often the retopology videos that I do on this channel don't tend to be too popular, and it's interesting because, I mean, granted, some people like my style, some people don't like my style. There's that. And then there's, could be my way of doing retopology. However, retopology in general is extremely important. Tedious, but extremely important if you want to use these characters for more than something like a 3D print or to make a picture of or a turnaround. Anyway, so what we're going to do now is we're going to go to the upper left. We're going to go to object mode. We're going to go to the wrench. Then we're going to go to the mirror modifier to turn that on. We'll turn on clipping. We'll go back to the upper left, go back to edit mode. We'll go to the right, select the triangle so that it looks like the mirrored geometry is the same as the actual geometry. I was saying that thing about retopology videos. I think because I think that the retopology of if somebody's watching the videos on this channel, if you watch a bunch of them on here and you do like my style of trying to explain in depth what I'm doing, I think the retopology videos are like some of the most important ones. The way things work on this channel, if you're not used to the channel, is you can see how I've learned. This channel's been going for years now. You can see, like, if you look at the date of the videos and you go forward, you can see like, oh, okay, he learned this, he learned this, he learned this. So this is the current retopology. So this is my current level of retopology knowledge, which is better than the last video that I made. Again, I think that the retopology, if you're interested in something like animation or using these characters for more than just turnarounds, pictures, or 3D printing, I think that the retopology videos are some of the most important ones on the channel. I'm going to click here, push this towards itself, and then the back I'll select here, push that towards itself. So we have these 3 faces here. I can select here, pull this down. We want this to be more on the shoulders like that. Then I'll left click to deselect. I'm going to hold shift as well as the middle mouse button to pan. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to hold shift, right click. We did that to put the 3D cursor over the arm where the 3D cursor is at in Blender, where objects tend to come into Blender at. I'm going to hold shift, press A, go to circle. When I selected circle, this panel over here popped up to the left, right? Sometimes it'll pop up like this. You select the arrow and then you'll see the options here. I want to change these vertices from 32 to 12. I did that because I had mentioned to you before, you want to generally keep your geometry basic, particularly in the beginning stages. So we're just beginning the body topology now. I'm going to go to the right, select the triangle. I brought this in, right? Now I have snapping on. I didn't click anything yet. So this is an actual circle. However, as soon as I click something with this on, this will cause issues. So I'm going to go to the upper left, go to object mode, turn off this. turning off this so that I'm going to go to the upper left, go back to edit mode, so I can place this without issues. I'm rotating to make sure that this didn't, get deformed from the snapping, which it didn't. So I'll press S to scale on the Y axis. Somebody before recently asked me about what did it mean to rotate on an axis. There's X, Y, and Z axes. So the if you don't know those axes, if you press R, X, Y, Z, you can rotate, move your mouse and see. So rotating an axis is a nice way to limit yourself in rotation. Often when you're working in 3D, it's actually good to limit yourself because you have so many options when you're working in 3D and moving to different 3D views. It's good to limit yourself when you do certain moves. So that's why it's good to actually rotate on axes. You could just freely rotate. Most of the time you'll find that there's a time and a place for that, rotating freely, but most of the time you'll find that it'll cause you issues. Anyway, I'm going to press R to rotate on the Y axis. And when I rotate on an axis, most of the time it's pretty much automatic. Like if I think about it, I'm like, what axis is that? However, sometimes I do forget, and I'll just press R, Z, X, Y, move the mouse and see what it does, and you can just switch from one to the other. Anyway, I'm going to press S to scale this down. We're going to use a shrink wrap on here. That's the plan. So I'm making sure that this is around the arm. I'm going to press E to extrude to bring this up. Now I look to make sure that this is over the elbow. I'm going to press E to extrude to bring this up to the arm. I'm going to left click to deselect. Okay, what we're going to do now is go to the upper left, go to object mode. We're going to add on a shrink wrap modifier. For the target, we're selecting the main body mesh. Selecting this because I want to name this main body. So now we'll select back on our retopology mesh, go to the upper left, go to edit mode now. For the shrink wrap, we can select this triangle to the right to make sure make it look like it's on the geometry. I think it's easier to work with when it's like this. It looks like it's in edit mode geometry, like regular edit mode. Okay, so we're going to go to upper left, turn snapping back on, go back to the upper left, go to edit mode. I'm going to hold control, press R. I'll put in 2 loop cuts here. You can see as soon as I put in those loop cuts, the shrink wrap made this go closer to the body. Left click to deselect. I'm going to hover here, hold control, put in 1 loop cut. I'm selecting to move this out further, closer to the shoulder. Run edge select. I'm going to select here. Select here. I'm going to turn off clipping. I'm going to press E to extrude, right click. Push this down. You're like, why did you turn off clipping? I turn off clipping because I think it's easier to manually push this together rather than having Blender try to do it. I've rotated to make sure this wasn't going back, to make sure that this was flat. Now we're sticking to this. We have these closed, right? However, the shrink wrap modifier is on this part of the body. So you could delete the close to make things look easier. Right now we're focusing on having the retopology mesh be on this mesh right here, which is the body mesh. Now, what I want to do with this retopology is have the retopology, for the most part, be mainly one mesh, which includes the body as well as the clothes. However, in getting to that point, using the main body, for shrink wrap as well as snapping, seems the most useful right now to moving forward with our progress. Okay, when it comes to working with the shrink wrap modifier, the way I tend to work with them is I'll use it, I'll apply it. If I need it again, I'll bring it back. So what I'm going to do is go to object mode. I'm going to apply the shrink wrap modifier. This split, that's fine. I'm going to turn off snapping. Go back to edit mode. Push those points towards each other. I'm going to hold control, press R, left click, bring that down like that, left click to deselect, go to the upper left, go to edge select. With this here, we want this face to cover the whole side of the body. So we're going to hold control, then right click. And then this, we want this to cover the back of the body. Hold control, right click. So we'll push this towards itself. While we're doing things like this, I had mentioned before, you want to keep things basic, is what I would say. So I'm going to select here, bring that up, or push that together. Left click to deselect. Okay, I'm going to go here, hold control, press R, move the mouse. You can see when you press control R, when you move the mouse, you can make these loop cuts go vertical as well as horizontal. I'm going to left click once because I left click one time. I can move this loop cut. I'm going to move this up here. Just thinking about defining the chest later on. When you're doing retopology, be careful about when you're trying to connect different things. Like we're about to start to connect the arm geometry up to this geometry up here. Be careful about making too much geometry. So we have these fairly big faces. I'm going to hold control, press R to put one loop cut, right? One loop cut here. I'm going to hold control, press R to put one loop cut there. Hold the middle mouse button to rotate. I left click to try and deselect. Okay, so what you want to do now is I'm going to hold shift as well as the middle mouse button. Look at how your geometry is lined up, and you can kind of see like how this is, how you can connect this. So we're going to go to edge select here, hold shift, select there, press F to fill. Now once we have that for these next faces here, we can select here, then press F to fill that. Push this over. Push that over. Edge select here. Hold shift. Press F to fill that. I'm gonna left click to deselect. You're gonna hold Alt, press A to deselect. I'm gonna hold the middle mouse button to rotate, hold shift as well as the middle mouse button to pan. I'll select here. Hold shift, select there, press F to fill. So I'll hold control. Oops, there we go. Put that down. Hold control, press R here. Select here, hold shift, select there, press F to fill. I'll left click to deselect. Okay, when I roll the mouse wheel back, we're going to put in two loop cuts here. Hold control, press R. There we go. So we have three faces from there. So we're going to select here, press F, then F. We'll select there, hold Shift, select here, then press F. For that, we'll left click to deselect. I'm going to go back to the upper left, go to object mode. I'm going to go to the right. I'm going to add on shrink wrap modifier. I'm going to go back to the upper left, go back to edit mode. I'm going to select this triangle to make it look like the shrink wrap modifier has been applied. Okay, I'm going to hold the mouse button. I want this to snap more to the side. Be careful of the other geometry. So I'm going to press G. You have to have your angle right to have this snap to where you want it and not snap to someplace you don't want it. So I'll select here. Oops. Hold Shift. Press F to fill. I'm going to hold Control, press R to put a loop cut here, then left click to deselect. Okay, we're going to go to Vertex Select. Hold Control. I'm looking basically for how I can make quads here. Holding Control. So with that done, we should be able to go. It's not done. We're going to select here, press F, F, F. Back to Vertex Select. F. F. Gonna hold Control, press R, loop cut here, loop cut here, select here as well as here, as well as here, press F to fill, put a loop cut here, F to fill, whoops, loop cut here, F to fill. I connect these here, so I'm going to put 2 loop cuts in. F to fill. F to fill. I'm going to press Alt A, then to deselect. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to go to Face Select. We're going to select this face, press X, delete this face. We're going to go to Edge Select, select here, hold Control, press R to rotate, go to Vertex Select. We're going to select, select here. Yeah, select here, select there, press M, which brings up our merge menu, then select at last. We're then going to go to edge select here, hold shift, select here, press F. I'm going to select here, here, as well as here. We're going to press F. Select here, 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 as well as here, then press F to fill. Then I'm going to hold Alt, press A to deselect. Kind of the reason why I deleted a face and I did things the way I did them was if I hold Control and press R, I'm not trying to put a loop cut. I'm trying to show you that these loops flow in these areas here. This loop area here flows around. This one doesn't flow, but it goes up and down. This one goes across. I was trying to not have a loop that kind of like swirls around, or an edge flow that swirls around. So that's why I set this up in the way that I did. I just rolled the middle mouse button to zoom back, hold the middle mouse button to take a look. I'm going to roll the mouse wheel back, holding the middle mouse button, taking a look at what we have. I'm going to hold shift as well as the middle mouse button to pan up. Okay, what we're going to do now is look to our upper right. See this collection? I'm going to select the arrow there so we can see this. We're going to make sure we're selected on body retopology. We're going to make sure the snapping is turned off. With the body retopology selected, we're going to go to the upper left. Then we're going to go to edit mode. Okay, dealing with retopology, sometimes the arms can be fairly annoying. For this part, my techniques change. The more I learn, the more I know. Sometimes I'll advance, sometimes I'll go back to what I used to do. Right now, I want to deal with the arms and the legs. A lot of times when you're working, it's what works best for you and how you think about that. Most of the time, what works best for me is speed. I want a decent result. I want speed as well. So anyway, in saying that, I've struggled with the arms. I've tried different ways of doing the arms. Right now, this is my current way. So what we're going to do is we're going to select everything, press X, select vertices so that there's nothing in here, right? I'm going to hold shift and then right click. I did that to move the 3D cursor. All right, so the 3D cursor is there. 3D cursor in Blender is important because where the 3D cursor is at is where objects tend to come into Blender at. I'm going to hold shift, press A. This brings up our mesh menu. And then what I want to do is go to circle. So this is a mesh circle, all right? I'm going to left click. When I do that, this menu pops up over to the lower left. If you don't see all of these options, select the arrow and you'll see this. See how these vertices says 32? We're going to change this to 8 and then press enter. So now we have this right here, what you can see. So we want to rotate that. So we're going to press R to rotate on the Y axis. 9, 0. Then left click to lock that in. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go to the upper left, go to object mode, go to the, looks like a square. I'm going to make sure I have in front turned on, go back to the upper left, go back to edit mode. I'm going to press R to rotate on the Y axis. I'm rotating this so it kind of like is aimed towards the arm. I'm going to press S to scale. I turn that in front on so we could see this inside of the arm. So that's what we want to do, is put this actually inside of the arm. To make sure this is placed inside the arm, you're going to have to rotate your view. You'll find that if you try to do like just a front view, you'll have a hard time seeing where objects are at in 3D. You want to, when you're doing this, you want snapping to be off. You don't want this to be too high up. So once this is here, and long story short, like you're like, wow, he's doing a lot placing this. When you're trying to get the retopology set up for arms and legs, rotating the mesh and going around, it's somewhat frustrating for me. So I like this. What we're going to do here will let us deal with the retopology of the arms and legs fairly simply. Again, with this arm, make sure it's not too hot, too close to the shoulder. We can deal with that later. Once this is inside of the arm and in a decent position, what we want to do is go to the upper left and go to object mode. Here in object mode, we want to look towards the right, select the wrench. We want to select, go into our modifiers, put on the shrink wrap modifier. We're going to look to where we see wrap method. We're going to change this to project. For the snap mode, we're going to set this for above surface, right? For the target, we're going to select our main body. See how this goes like that, right? We're going to set this for negative. We're going to go to the upper left, go back to edit mode. This does what you see here. And to deal with that, we're going to extrude this. We're going to press E to extrude, bring this down like that. And then you'll see if you push this, you want to have it about that distance from the arm. And what we're going to do with this, and you see how this is, actually to make this easier to work with, what we're going to do is go to the upper right. This is our show overlays menu. We're going to select here, and then we're going to select, go down to shading. See this hidden wire? You're going to select that, right? Okay, that doesn't make it that much. This, in the future, this can help, so keep that in your mind. We're going to turn this off. So with this now, this is generally where we want it to be. We're going to hover here. We're going to hold Control, press R. This puts a loop cut. So there's our first loop cut. So now we're going to roll the mouse. I didn't roll it yet. So now we're going to count that first loop cut as 1. Now we're going to roll it until we get 8. So this is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We're going to left click to lock that in, then left click a second time to lock that in. Left click to deselect, go to the upper left, go back to object mode. We're going to select here. And then you can hopefully see like that is wrapped nicely. It helps my mind to come out of object mode for now. You can change the modifiers while you're in edit mode. Anyway, but yeah, this is, that works fairly well. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go to the upper left, go to object mode. I'm going to go to the shrink wrap. I'm going to select the arrow. Whoops, select arrow, duplicate. I duplicated the shrink wrap just so I can apply this and then have another shrink wrap. So I'm going to select here, select apply, and then I have this other shrink wrap ready to go, which is good. Okay, we're going to go to the upper left, go to edit mode, zoom back, hold the mouse button right, rotate slightly, hold shift, then right click. We move the 3D cursor here by holding shift and pressing right click. Why is that important? Because where the 3D cursor is at in Blender, it's where objects tend to come into Blender at. We're going to hold shift, press A. This brings up our mesh menu. We're going to go to circle. Go to vertices, change this from 32 to 8. I'm speaking very quickly. YouTube has a nice feature where you can slow things down. If you want to slow it down, it should be near the bottom to make things easier to follow, maybe. I'm going to press R to rotate on the Y-axis. Press S to put this inside. I'm holding the middle mouse button to rotate the view so I can actually see where this 3D cursor is at in 3D space. With this inside of the leg and away from here for now, we'll go to the upper left. Go to object IM. You can change this inside of you can work with the modifier inside of edit mode. You don't have to come out. This tends to help me section up my mind. Seems like going out. If you're like, why? I'm going to go to the upper go to the upper left, go to edit mode, and then similar to before, we'll press E to extrude, bring this down, roll the mouse wheel to zoom it back. So with that there, now we'll hold control, similar to before, press R. So we'll include that as the first loop cut. We want to take this up to 8, so it's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then we'll left click to lock that in, left click a second time to lock that in, left click to deselect, go to the upper left, go to object mode, go to the arrow and shrink wrap, then select apply. Okay, I shouldn't have gotten rid of that yet. It's fairly easy to bring that back, so we'll go back to shrink wrap. Wrap method, change this to project. Above surface, negative. Target. So with all of this done, we'll turn this off for now. Go to the upper left, then go to edit mode. Okay, here in edit mode, I'm going to go over the hand, hold shift, press B. This lets us draw a box. As soon as I let go, we're going to zoom into the hand. There we go. We'll hold the mouse button, rotate. We'll hold shift, then right click on the hand here. Be careful of being too close up to here. We're going to hold shift, press A, select circle, go to the left, change this to 8. Hopefully you're familiar with this by now. Putting this inside, shrinking this down, pushing this inside. We'll press R to rotate on the X-axis this time. Position that inside. We'll press E, extrude that down some, make sure that that's inside. We'll press R on the Y-axis. Well, because we have this selected, we can hold control, then press L. That was control L. Once you're selected on vertex or vertices, you press control L, you'll select the rest of the geometry. What we're going to do now is hold shift, press D, right click, move this inside, press R to rotate on the X-axis, maneuver in 3D view to make sure you're actually inside, R to rotate on the Y-axis, there we go. You want to have this down far enough from the fingertips. Okay, we're actually inside now. We'll hold shift, press D, rotate, and so you can see 3D. Hold shift, press D. When I say 3D, I mean like a 3D view. What is this? R to rotate on the X-axis. That's inside. Hold shift, press D. R to rotate on the X-axis. Now left click to deselect. Okay, so we're going to go to the upper left, turn this on. Back to upper left, go to edit mode. I'm going to hold Alt. I'm on vertex select. By the way, if you look to the upper left, you can see that. Hold Alt. I'm going to press G to move this down. Try to keep your vertices as straight as you can. This is working out well. Press G. Hold Alt. G. Left click to deselect. Very good so far. I'm going to hold them the mouse button. Hold Alt. Select here. Hold them the mouse button. Press G. Good. Oh. Yeah. Good. So what we're going to do now is hold control, press R. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 we'll put in. Hold control. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold control. 1. Control R, by the way. 4. Control R. 2, 3, 4. Left click to lock that in. Hold shift as well as middle mouse button to pan. Hover here. Hold control. Press R. 2, 3, 4. Left click once. Left click a second time to lock that in. Left click on nothingness to deselect. Okay, I'm going to go to the upper left. Go to object mode. I'm going to apply that Go back to the upper left, go to edit mode. Zoom back, hold the mouse button to rotate the view. Okay, we're going to go to the upper left, go to object mode. One more time, we're going to put that shrink wrap modifier back on. I learned something in between that's easier to do it this way, so that's why we're doing this now. We'll change wrap point to project, snap mode to above surface. When I say in between, I mean in between, video takes. I'm going to set that to negative, set the target to the body. We'll turn this off. When I say turn this off, we're selecting monitor so we don't see it activating. We're going to hold shift, then press right. That puts the 3D cursor there. 3D cursor where objects in Blender come into Blender at. We're going to hold shift, press A. We'll select, that brings up our mesh menu. We're going to select circle. We're going to change the vertices on the lower left from 32 to 16. We'll press enter, hold the mouse button so we can move this actually inside of our mesh. We'll shrink that some. You want to move in 3D to make sure that that's actually inside of your mesh. I centered that some there. Okay. Okay, I'm going to move this up slightly higher. Press E to extrude, right click. Bring that down like that. Left click, go to the upper left, go to object mode, turn on. Then I'm going to apply that. Okay, we're going to go to the upper left, go to edit mode. We're going to go to our upper left, go to face select, hold Alt, select this loop of faces, I'll let go of Alt. We're going to hold Shift D, right click, move this up, press S to scale this up. This is going to be the topology for our shoulder. I'm going to press R to rotate on the Y axis like this. So with this here now, we have the general topology from here. Now we can use snapping to snap this. I'm going to go to the upper left, go to object mode, turn on snapping. Go to the upper left, go to vertex select. Also going to go to the left and set this to tweak mode. So this tweak mode, this tweak here, right? What this does is this allows you to grab geometry like vertices and then move them without being so much concerned about which axis you're on. So I'm pressing G. Oh, you know what? Yeah, the tweak, we don't have to press G. When we can grab and this will snap. So what you want to do is kind of aim the view to where you want your snapping to go. Now, vertices will not snap until you move them. I'll left click to deselect. Okay, what we're going to do now is hold shift as well as the middle mouse button to pan. I'm going to go to the upper left, go to edge select, select this edge here. Now we can select both edges. We'll press E to extrude, bring this down like this. So I'm going back to the move tool here, bring that down like that. So now I'm going to press E to extrude. Press S to scale that. E to extrude. I'm gonna hold shift, select these two edges, hold control, press E. Then I'm gonna select bridge edge loops. Roll the mouse wheel back. Rolling towards the front, I'll left click to deselect. Okay, I'm gonna zoom back. We're gonna go to orthographic front mode. We're going to turn on this X-ray. We're going to go to face select. We're going to press B for box select. Select this half of the geometry. We're going to turn that X-ray off. I'm going to hold shift to select this other geometry here. With that done, I'll press X to bring up our delete menu, then choose faces to delete. Okay, the reason why we did that was so we could go to the upper left. Go to object mode. We'll put a mirror modifier on. We'll select, looks like a triangle. We'll put a check mark next to clipping. Go to the upper left. Go to edit mode. We'll go to edge select. We'll push this geometry towards itself. Press G. Try to get that to snap. We'll select the center line here. We'll actually try to pull away from itself. Go to vertex select, push this back. The center line, things can get wild. Take this. Go to edge select. Push that in. I'll select here. Pull that back. So we have this face here. I'm going to hold control, press R, 2, 3. That made that 4 sections there. 2, 3. 4 sections in the back here. Hold them in the mouse button to rotate towards the front. Okay, we have edge select on. I'm going to select here, press E to extrude, right click, push that into itself. I'm going to hold control, press R, then put in 3 loop cuts. We have 4 faces there. Those faces aren't sticking, so we'll select here. Well, we'll go to upper left, go to face select, and by moving them slightly, there we go, makes them actually stick. I'm going to left click deselect. Okay, what we're going to do now is go to edge select. Hold Alt on this edge. When we look at our statistics, by the way, to get to the statistics, if you select here, right there, I have a check mark, so you can see there. So if you look here, see these vertices, 8 vertices there. If I hold Alt and select here, same thing, 8 vertices. So typically when you have 8 and 8, I mean, we did duplicate this from this. This will match up easily. So anyway, we're holding Alt, I'm holding Shift. I'm going to hold Control, press E. This brings up our edge menu. We're going to select bridge edge loops. So then we're going to left click to deselect. I'll hold Alt, then press A to totally deselect. Okay, we're on edge select. I'm going to select here. I'm holding Shift. 1. Well, this is 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I let go of Shift, hold Control, press E. That brought up our edge menu. We'll select bridge edge loops, and then I'll hold Alt, then press A to deselect. Okay, I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. I'm going to select here, hold Shift, then press E, right click. I'm going to our move tool towards the left. I'm going to push these 2 edges towards each other. I'm going to hover here, hold Control, press R, roll my mouse wheel once. I'm going to left click, then left click a second time. So we have 3 faces, like 1, 2, 3, and then another 3 here. I left clicked on nothingness to deselect. Hold the middle mouse button to rotate. Hold shift as well as the middle mouse button. The pan, hold the middle mouse button to rotate. Hold control as well as the middle mouse button to do a smooth zoom out. I'll hold control A to make sure I'm totally deselected. So I'm not currently selected on anything. I'm going to zoom in, hover here, hold control, press R, left click once, left click a second time to lock in, left click on nothingness to deselect. I'm going to hold the mouse button, take a look here. I'm going to, well, not just to take a look, we're going to connect this. So we're going to select here, hold shift, hold the mouse button, rotate. We'll select here, as well as here, as well as here, as well as not there. If you select something by accident, if you hold shift and then while holding shift select whatever you didn't want selected again, you'll deselect it. So with those selected, we'll hold control, press E. This brings up our edges menu. We'll select bridge edge loops. I'm going to go to vertex select. See this thing stretching here? Pull that way back like that. I push this down. I'm going to hold shift, draw a zoom box to zoom in here. I'm going to, with this selected, I'm holding shift. Then I'm going to press M. This brings up our merge menu. I'm going to select at last. And then I'm going to left click to deselect. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate. I'll press Alt A just to make sure I don't have anything selected. Okay, I'm going to select here as well as here. Trying to keep things simple. We can come back and change things later on. Moving these. Slightly. I'll hold Alt, then press A to deselect. Okay, I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to select here, hold Shift, press D. To move this vertice to here. I'm going to hold control, drawing a box along the top here. I'm holding shift. So then I press F to fill. Go to the tweak. To move that. So now I'm selecting here, holding control. I'm going to select here, hold shift, then press F to fill. Select here, holding control, selecting here, pressing F to fill, left click to deselect. I'll select here, hold shift, whoops, nope, I'm going to hold control, right click. Then I'll select these here as well as here, then press F to fill. Roll the mouse wheel to zoom back, held the mouse button to rotate the view. I'm going to hold Alt, then press A to deselect. Okay, I'm holding the mouse button to rotate the view. I'm selecting these points while holding shift. I'm going to press F to fill. I'm on vertex select. I'm going to select here, hold control. Hold the mouse button to rotate the view, control, holding shift, then selecting there, then pressing F. I'm going to select here, 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 as well as here, then press F to fill. Then I'm going to hold Alt, then press A to deselect. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to go to the upper left, go to object mode, go to the right, turn the monitor, whoops, not for that, for the mirror. Okay. This is fine. Over here, we're going to go up top, temporarily turn off the snapping, go back to the upper left, go to edit mode. We'll go to the upper left, face select, hover here, press L. I'm going to hold shift, press D, right click, go to the upper left, take the move tool, move this over. So I duplicated this right here, and the reason why is this is similar to here. I'm going to press R to rotate on the Z axis to rotate this. So I'm rotating my mouse now, trying to line this up somewhat with that other pouch there. I'm going to left click to deselect. Okay, I'm going to go back to the upper left, go to object mode, turn snapping back on, come back to edit mode. I'm going to go to vertex select. So we move this here. This shouldn't snap yet. It's just sitting there, right? However, when we select a vertice, then press G, now this will snap. So that's what I'm doing. Selecting the vert. Snapping this. So we'll go to the upper left, go to the tweak tool. Somewhat difficult to see. Okay. So I'm adjusting these, trying to let the retopology help me out as I go. Okay, I'm holding the mouse button to take a look. I'm going to select this edge here, select here, hold shift, select there, press F to link those together. I'm going to select here, as well as here, as well as here, then press F to link that together. I'm going to hold Alt, hold Alt, press A, there we go, to deselect. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to hold Control, press R, put a loop cut there, hold Control, press R, put a loop cut there. I'm going to hold Control, press R, roll mouse wheel one time, left click. I did that to try to set up the geometry to match up with that. So we'll select here, hold shift. I held shift to get rid of that one piece there. And we're already here, so I'll select here. As well as here. We'll see if this works. Hold Control, press E. That brought up our edges menu. We'll select Bridge Edge Loops. We'll left click to deselect. Okay, I'm going to roll the mouse wheel to zoom that back. What we're going to do is put geometry in here. We're going to try to get this filled in. If some of the topology looks too iffy, we'll come back and fix it. We're going to try to go through this and get most of this covered. So what we're going to do is look here, hold Control, press R, left click once, left click a second time to put a loop cut in. I'm going to select here, hold shift, then select here, then press F to fill. I'm going to select here, hold shift, still holding shift, select there, press F to fill, left click to deselect, holding the middle mouse button to rotate. I'm going to hold Alt A to deselect everything. I'm going to hold shift as well as the middle mouse button to pan. I'm going to hold Control, press R to put a loop cut. I'm going to move this up. I only click once. I did that because I can see this here. Need something to match up there. So I'll select, zoomed in so you can see it better. I'm holding shift, press F to fill. I'm going to select here, then press G twice. It should be edge slide, so that allows me to move this edge down to match up with this. Holding shift, I'm going to press F to fill. I'll hold Alt, press A to deselect. I'm going to hold the mouse button to rotate the view. I'm going to hold L, press G twice. Select here, hold shift, press F to fill, hold Alt, press A to deselect. I'm going to roll the mouse wheel to zoom back. I can see a line here, or edge here. I'm thinking I can match it up here. And then that can go into there. So let's hold Control, press R, left click once, move this up some. We'll select here, hold Shift, select there, press F to fill. I'll hold Alt, press A to deselect. I'll select here, hold Shift, select there, and then press F to fill. I'm going to hold Alt, press A to deselect. Roll the mouse wheel back by rolling the mouse. I'm going to roll the mouse wheel to zoom in. Taking a look by holding the middle mouse button to rotate. Rolling the mouse wheel to zoom in. I'm going to hover here, hold Control, press R, left click once, left click a second time to lock that in. I did that because I'm thinking about connecting this up to here. Right here, there, so I'm holding Shift. I'm going to press F to fill. I'm going to hold Control, press R to put a loop cut here. Select there, there, press F to fill. Can be slightly difficult to see because you can see the back here. What I'm going to do here is go to Vertex select here. Select there, press F to fill. Go to Edge select. Oops. Okay. Hold Shift. Press F to fill. I'm going to hold Alt, press A to deselect. Okay, for now I'm going to hold Alt, whoops, go to Phase Select. Hold Alt, hold Shift, as well as Alt, because I'm selecting on the edge. I was able to grab all of that. I'm going to press C. I'm not holding anything. I press C. Now I'm pushing the middle mouse button to deselect. So I have all this geometry here selected. I'm going to hold Shift to deselect this. I'm going to press H to temporarily hide that geometry. I'm going to select there and then press H to hide that as well. Okay, I'm going to hold the mouse button to rotate. I'll select, go to Edge, select upper left. Select the edge there. I'm holding the middle mouse button. Now I'm holding Control, then left clicking there. When I hold Control, I use something called the shortest path technique. It's when you select an area and then Blender basically selects the other edges leading to the path you selected. So when you hold Control, Blender selects all of the geometry in between, in this case, edges. So with that done, I'm going to press E to extrude, right click. Move this up very slightly. Be very careful because that snap will cause you issues. I'm going to hold Alt, press A to deselect. Okay, I'm going to go to the upper left, go to object mode, turn off the snap, come back to the upper left, go to edit mode. I did that because the snapping will probably mess up fairly bad. What I'm going to do is press E to extrude, right click, bring this out some like that. I'm going to press E to extrude. I'm going to hold Alt, press H to bring back our previously hidden geometry. Go to face select. This row of geometry here, I'm going to press X to bring up our delete menu. Then I'll choose delete faces. Okay, so we still have snapping off. I'm selecting here, holding Shift. Bringing this down. I'm going to hold Control, press R, put a loop cut here so this can match up. Hold Control, press R, move the loop cut so that can match up. Select here, here, here. Hold Control, press E, select that brought up our edges menu, select Bridge Edge Loops. I'm going to hold Control, press R, put a loop cut here, move this down slightly. Select here, here as well as here, then press F to fill that. Hold Alt, press A to deselect, roll the mouse wheel to zoom back to take a look. Okay, I'm going to hold the mouse button to rotate the view. See this here? This needs to be connected here, so we're going to hold Control, press R. So we'll select here, here, as well as here, then press F to fill. We'll select here, hold Shift, select there, press F to fill. Roll the mouse wheel to zoom back, left click to deselect. Okay, we're going to put a loop here to match up with that there. I can see that's difficult to see. We're going to hold Control, press R, left click once, left click a second time to lock that in. I want to have this show up, but have this not show. I'm going to hold Alt, press A to deselect. We can do that by holding Alt and then pressing B. I'm holding the mouse, but when I let go, everything in the box will be visible. Everything from the side as well as to the front, everything outside of the box will be hidden. So this makes things easier to work with. Often, so I'm going to go to Vertex, select. I'm looking at these. I'm holding Control. So now I'm right-clicking to try to match up. I want a loop here so I can match this up here. So I'm going to hold Control, press R. Left click once because I left click once. I can move the loop cut. I left click a second time to lock that in. I'm going to go to Edge Select. Select here. Zoom in mainly to move this out of the way. Holding Shift again. Then I'm going to press F. So now I should be able to select here and then press F, F, F. That's the F2 add-on. I'm manually selecting this. I held the middle mouse button to rotate. I'm manually selecting this because of wasn't sure if F2 would make that gap. So I'm looking here, I'm going to hold Control, press R. To put a loop cut there. You go to Vertex Select, Control, Control, Control. I'm holding Control to put these vertices in here. So now I'm going to go to Edge Select, select here, press F. I'll select here now, press F, F, F. Hold Shift, select here, then press F. I'm going to hold Alt, press B to bring the other hidden geometry back. Hold the middle mouse button to take a look. And hold Alt A to deselect. Okay, I'm going to go to the upper left, go to Object Mode, turn on Snapping. Go through and snap some of this geometry. So I'll select here, press G. I'm selecting this one by one because I'm trying to have this snap where I want it to snap at. If that makes sense. Vertex select. Edge select. Select, whoops, edge select. Press F to fill. And hold Alt, press A to deselect. I'm going to go back to Vertex Select. Hold Control. I'm trying to match up. I'm thinking of 4 vertices to make up a face as I'm going along here. Gonna hold Control, press R to put a loop cut here. Left click once, drag that down. Left click a second time to lock that in. Go to Edge Select. I'm gonna select here. Typically, I'll select here, here. Typically, this first edge, it's good to manually select it, and then after that, you can use the F2 add-on. This here, what we can do is go to Vertex Select, select here, hold Control. Then we'll go to Edge Select, select here, hold here, or select there. Still holding Shift. So with that, I'll select here, here, as well as here. Then I'll press F to fill. I'll hold Alt, press A to deselect. Okay, I'm going to hold the middle mouse button, rotate towards the back. I'm going to hold Control, press R, put a loop cut right there. I'm going to select here, right? Pay attention to this. This is connected here. I'm going to press, I have my mouse underneath this edge. So when I'm going to separate this, rip this. So I'll be connected to this edge because I'm underneath it. It's a small detail, but it's something I think you should know. So if my mouse was above here and I pulled up, the geometry would go up. Because my mouse is beneath here, when I push down, the geometry will pull down, right? So I'm going to press V. So this is ripped. So now I pull that down. The reason why I did that was so that I could select here. Now I should be able to press F, F, F. So now we have that filled in. I'll zoom back. Hold the middle mouse button to rotate. I'm going to hold Alt, Wait a second. Yeah, hold Alt, press A to deselect. Hold the middle mouse button to rotate. All right, I'm going to zoom in. Hold the middle mouse button to rotate. I'm going to hover here, hold Control, press R, put one loop cut in, left click to lock that loop cut in. Select here. I'm holding Shift. I'm going to press F. I'm selecting here. I'm now holding Shift. Selecting here. I'm going to press F. I'm going to hold Alt, select here. So I selected the entire edge loop. Hold the middle mouse button to rotate. Then I'm going to press F to fill. Then I'm going to hold Alt, then press A to deselect. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button to rotate the view. We're on edge select. I'm going to select here, here, as well as here. Then press F to fill. I'm going to go to vertex select, select here, hold Shift, press D. I duplicated this vertex here. I did that so that I could make a face. So I'll select here, 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 as well as here. Then I'll press F to fill. I'm going to edge select. I'll select here, here, as well as here. Then press F to fill. Zoom back. Hold Alt, press A to deselect. I'm going to zoom in, hold the mouse button to rotate. I'm going to hold Control, put a loop cut here. Edge select on, I'm going to press E to extrude. Bring this up like that. Select here, here, here. Oops, here, here, here. Press F to fill. I'm going to hover here, hold Control, put a loop cut here, select here, here, as well as here, press F to fill. Vertex select. I'm going to select here, here, press F to fill. I'm going to select this, press F to fill. We can change the topology later. The main thing I'm thinking now is getting this connected up. Hold the middle mouse button, taking a look. Okay, we're going to go to the upper left, go to object mode. We're going to turn off snapping. We're going to go to the right. We're going to add a shrink wrap modifier on here. For our target, we'll select the hand. We'll duplicate the shrink wrap, turn the one off. Go to the upper left, go to edit mode. We're going to go to the upper right, go to our overlays menu. We're going to go to face orientation. These faces are red because they're not facing the correct direction. So we're going to press A to select all. I'm going to go to face select, and then I'm going to hold Shift and press N. That recalculates normals. Now you can see this is all blue, so the faces are facing the correct direction. I'm going to left click to deselect, go back to the upper left, turn off face orientation. Okay, what we're going to do now is go to object mode. For this first shrink wrap modifier, I'm going to go from nearest surface point to project. I'm going to turn negative on. I'm then going to apply that modifier. Okay, I'm going to go back to the upper left, go to edit mode. See this right here? We can go to edge select, hold Alt, select here, press S to scale on the x-axis 0, and then pull the center line away from itself. It's kind of strange, but it actually makes it go toward. Long story short, you want to push this edge towards that edge. Then the clipping here should make these pieces of geometry go together. I'm going to hold Alt, press A to deselect. Okay, I'm taking a look. See how the geometry could be smoothed out. We can do that fairly easily by going to the upper left. Before we do it, let's turn this on. Change this from nearest surface to project. Change that to negative. A little strangeness there. By selecting the monitor, we can see when this is off. We'll turn the monitor on, duplicate this. Apply that. Turn this off. We'll add a smooth modifier to this. Let's move this above the shrink wrap modifier. We'll change the factor to 1. Change the repeat to 2. We'll apply that. When we go back into edit mode, you should see that this is a lot smoother. We'll duplicate this again, apply that. All right, so we'll go to edit mode. We'll hold Alt with edge select on, select this edge here, push that towards itself. Then you can pull away sometimes and have that fix itself kind of, or fix itself, you know, have these vertices merged up. They're merging together because of this clipping setting in mirror. I'm going to hold Alt, press A to deselect. Okay, we're going to zoom in, hold Shift. We're going to select here, hold Control, that use Blender's shortest path technique. We'll press E to extrude, right click. Move this geometry up like this. We did that so that we have these 4 faces here, so we can select this, then press F to fill. Do a similar thing on the other side. We'll select there, hold Control, press E to extrude, move this up, select here, here, as well as here, press F to fill. Now we'll hold Alt, press E, extrude this up like that. Okay, we can flatten this out by pressing S to scale on the Z-axis 0. Left click to lock that in. We'll push this towards itself. Be careful of the center line. Press S to scale on the X-axis like that. We'll press R to rotate on the X-axis to tilt this forward like that. And we'll press E to extrude. Move this up some like that. Press R to rotate on the X-axis. like this. I just press S to scale. I press forward, then S to scale on the Y axis like that. I'll zoom back. I'm going to hold Alt, press A to deselect. Okay, let's deal with these hands. I'm going to hold Shift as well as the middle mouse button to pan. I'm glad I showed you how to set up the hands like this. However, I'm going to switch to a different method of doing them. Hold Control, press L to select all of them. So I pressed B to do a box select. Then I did a Control L. Now I'm going to press X, which brings up our ability to delete those faces. So now what I'm going to do is hold Shift, and then I'm going to right click while holding Shift. That put the 3D cursor there. It's important because where the 3D cursors at in Blender is where objects tend to come into Blender at. Okay, so what we're going to do is hold Shift, press A, then we're going to bring in a cube. Press S to shrink the cube down. Hold the middle mouse button to rotate, go to the upper left, go to face, select the top of the cube, press X to bring up our delete menu, then choose faces to delete or delete faces. Okay, I'm going to hold the middle mouse button. To rotate the view, I'm going to press L, moving this in place over the finger. Press R to rotate on the X-axis. There we go. So I'll select here. I want to be able to push the direction of the finger. So what I'll do is go to this transform orientation, and I'll change this to normal. So now you can see this. I can drag to get this pretty much where I want for the finger. So with that done, I'm going to hover here, press L, hold Shift, press D, right click, push this over, hold Shift, press D to duplicate, push this over, hold Shift, press D to duplicate, push this over. So now I'm going to hold Alt, press A, hover here, press L, moving that up towards the fingers. I pressed L, hold Shift, press D. This works pretty well. I'm going to press R to rotate on the X-axis. There we go. One thing we can do to make this possibly easier is I'll go to outline. I'll go down to this hidden wire. There we go. That's better. It's just another option of letting you see differently. So I'm going to press R to rotate on the X-axis. I'll hold Alt, press A, hover here, press L, R to rotate on the X-axis like that. Move this up, over, like that. You want to rotate in 3D to try to have your, make sure they're actually where you expect them to be. So a lot of times they're not, like you can see this right here. R to rotate on the X-axis. So I'm going to hold Alt, press A, hover here, press L, press R to rotate on the X-axis. Adjust these slightly, press L, R to rotate on the X-axis. Here I'll select this, Move that so it's up more. I'm going to hold Alt, press A to deselect.